Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome to episode 3 of Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. I'm enjoying the hell out of this story, and I'm seeing that a few people who have commented on me on areas where I've shared this have been downplaying how good this game actually is and how Shadows is so much better, and hell, maybe when I get to Shadows, I'll be in comparison with that. But I gotta say, regardless of what other people are thinking, I'm just enjoying the hell out of this, and I cannot wait to see what the further adventures of Eric, our Brujah, are. So let's jump right into this. And rest. Love that time thing. Open your eyes. It's pitch dark here. The blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right. The light. You grasp for the switch and flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sofie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The Melancholy of Resistance. The title sure on brand. Good evening, Eric. Sorry to have kept you waiting. To be fair, I haven't been here long. I was enjoying reminiscing about the time when I called this my haven. The decor was much different, of course. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs to get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sofie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there. At least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you do well to at least learn about. You never told me if there's any suave. I don't even know where I'm going on that one. Kind of rules I should respect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been a kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So, know your place. Stay out of your superior's business and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about your reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned with. Her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down, and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there's a very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Welcome, Sofie. Eric. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there's somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight? Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Eric's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch. That must have hurt his ego. Even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you come back to that to all the talk of eschewing societal norms, disillusionment with the status quo you enjoyed back at the club. Look at you now. Behaved. Agreeable. She likely wouldn't be happy with this whole setup. Prince, court, hierarchy, titles, but hey, she's gone. Probably forever. If you ever break out of this, it'll be on your own. Flaring up whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad, inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show's about to start. Sofie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life, and he starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours. Keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why? Who do we have here? Oh fuck, oh shit. No, come on, don't. Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you. And there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrinks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems it takes all the hoodlum's willpower not to crawl into the fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man. Don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs. At the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sofie looks somewhat bored with the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing of her particular liking. So, what happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of the thug. Why not mingle a while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sofie leaves your side and goes to a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty, old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Just a sip to start off. A splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here a few nights ago. She has a cold but noble contestance to her. Her conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to a bespectacled man who you saw with Sofie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel someone's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has, at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone, with no glass in his hand, a worried look on his face. Good evening, Mr. Larson. Or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. So, do you have a role in this court, or are you just here for the company? Now that's a loaded question. I'm one of Prince Panhard's Privigen. I'm here on business, in case the prince requires my insight. Usually, it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. Not that I'm ungrateful, but out of curiosity, what was your reasoning? My reasoning? Just common sense. That you shouldn't be blamed for being assaulted and essentially murdered to boot. But, as Kadir loves to say, the traditions are clear. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice? Stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of joke, you know. You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look around you, and you see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me. I need to try to get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical look of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. You notice Sofie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can possibly still find time for at least one conversation. You approach the prince, trying to stay respectful for your private conversation from her private conversation as possible. She glances at you, step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samaria. Yes, Eric, what is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You're an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so, and there might be more to your future knights than just survival in servitude. The dark-skinned woman looked impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me. That's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samara still. Enjoy your evening, Eric. You leave the two women to their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samaria. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think. Something protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood. Surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. An Anarch Coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though, from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't. A loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone would be enough to pass swift judgment. But he is also Anarch scum, my prince. There can be only one verdict, final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan, like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you in Sofie is a cruel jest. Sofie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. In a split second, you make your choice. Focusing your blood, you dash towards and grab Howard by the back of his jumpsuit, pulling him away from the window. You expect some resistance, but you find you don't have to worry about it when a swift cut separates Howard's head from his body. You let go, and the headless corpse slumps to the ground. Kadir is standing between you and the window, his sword drawn. an ugly smile on his face. Well, Eric, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty on both you and your patron's account. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to my and Kadir's attention. I assume all of you have found the verdict satisfactory. It's all rhetoric questioning. Everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see so many of the guests move to do the same. Sofie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir al-Asmay is still here, for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought to the Anarch Inn is still chatting with the remaining attendants. The sheriff's move seems to have improved. So, you decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He is just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you before his face turns from a melancholic frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of self-reflection. What is it, Eric? I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece, for giving me a chance. An emotion creeps in Kadir's face that you haven't seen the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in the blink of an eye. It was trying on my nerves, and you are still far and away from proving that it was the right thing to do. So, don't think that a few kind words would let you off the hook. Still, I have to admit, I was as surprised as the prince when you jumped at the opportunity to stop the Anarch from escaping. I was sure Valerie would have beat you for it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Tell me, do you enjoy this? Being a sheriff for Prince Penard. Enjoyment has nothing to do with this. It's my duty. When Calibros asked me to fill the shoes of the sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve the sect. When Helene became prince and asked that I keep doing this, I agreed because I believe in the Camarilla, and I respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He picks up his sword and turns towards the stairs. If more kindred understood that, my job would be much duller, though. On that note, I wish you a good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sofie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something, and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time, you arrive to another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs, through a very nice lobby, luxurious-looking hall, into her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings, and this apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once. A nouveau riche's living room, meticulously combined together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you, even after death. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes. How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you like. Other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back, the bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in attention, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have an interest in mind, too. I have your interest in mind, too. That's why I've given you here. That's why I've given you your own haven. Why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something. When you're in trouble, too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Why not talk right now, since we're both here together? I still need to follow up on a few things before we speak. Patience, fledgling. That silence again. This is definitely something on Sofie's mind tonight. But she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip. A promise that you'll show up tomorrow. And some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting, in a way. Being dragged deeper and deeper into a secret society and its rules. Whatever Sofie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing that you've become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. That was a quick one. Less than a half an hour. Unread. We have learned today for our dictionary the Primogen Council. The Primogen Council represents the interests of the local kindred and advises the prince on matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in a domain, naturally favoring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to a Primogen not of their own clan. Primogen are often elders, but despite the term Primogen, from the Latin means the firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, more and more councils have seen drastic changes to their structure. The Anarch movement, a vampire sect that opposes the tyranny of elders and has placed itself outside the secret society of the Camarilla. Coterie, a small group of kindred, united by the need for support and sometimes common interest. And final death, when a vampire ceases to exist, crosses the line from undeath into true death. Well, this has all been fun, but I should probably call it a night for right now, and we will continue this next time in episode 4. Thank you very much for joining me. I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness. Please comment down below, like this video if you enjoyed it, and also share if you know of anybody who might enjoy my my special time with this story as well. Thank you for joining me. Good evening.